Yay!
Hi.
First, Elizabeth, Scott, Margaret Ann, hello, I'm Stacy. I just want to thank you, first of all, for your service and everything that you've done for this country. It matters, and I'm happy to help you any way that I can in transitioning to the civilian workforce. But I'm looking at you now; y'all look pretty good. Except, Margaret Ann, camo is camo. Like we're gonna have to work on that a little.
My name is Beth Gaida. I am a OBGYN physician. I
Mhm.
actually just transitioned out of the Air Force. I was active duty for about 13 years.
Wow.
And I typically wear scrubs like I am right now because we doctors, I'm sure you've seen our beautiful, ugly, very comfortable shoes. Dance goes are
Yeah.
our life. When we
Yeah.
work, 24 hours at a time, long cases, and everything like that. And so I guess my question to you is, the last time I bought clothes to work in that weren't scrubs or camouflage or polyester blue pants was about 15 years ago when I was in medical school. And
Wow.
15 years ago, wide leg pants that would work with those ugly shoes were in style. And I
Yeah.
think they're actually coming back. But what I've found when I've been trying to online shop and with COVID and everything is most pants are kind of taper fit or, a little bit of cropped 7/8 length and they obviously look horrific with those shoes. And so I'm just trying to figure out how to dress, in usually pants. I'm a gynecologist, skirts don't really work, but in pants that can work with old lady comfortable shoes.
Okay, first of all, there's so many weird things going on with all of those comments. But is Dansko the only comfortable shoe in the world? That's my first question.
No, Sanitas is the other brand that are actually still made in Poland.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting. I'm wondering because the pants thing is actually not that big an issue. You're right when you
okay,
say all sorts of pants are in style. It's not really a question of whether or not you're doing a skinny pant or a long pant or wide pant. It's much
okay,
more what is better for your body type. And
okay,
cropped wide pants usually actually wind up being a little bit more flattering than super flowy pants, as well as not getting in your way quite as much.
okay.
But I guess what I was really getting at is it possible for you to wear supportive sneakers, or does it have to be Danskos?
Yeah, we're all a bit weird about our shoes. Um, I can't wear sneakers on call. They just don't work for 24 hours for whatever reason. I
Right.
have tried to wear like Birkenstocks and some of the other brands, but I just over the years, especially hopping in and out of bed, like on call at night. Um, they just do work and you don't have to touch them, which
Right.
is nice after shifts. So I guess that's kind of why I've been stuck like that in kind of a shoe rut, I guess, for a while.
Right. And I understand that if it's not possible outside of, I mean, when you're at work, then that's what you work with. But in that case, then I would recommend like a higher waisted cropped pant that's not too cropped. I mean, something that's definitely, sort of lower calf. And
Okay.
I would recommend when you're shopping online, usually the best thing to do, especially because it's COVID and it takes it takes more effort, is the great advantage of shopping right now is that there are sales on everything. Sadly, with so many companies that are losing business, that it's an advantage for us in that there are so many sales. So I highly recommend starting with department stores and then working your way up from there. Obviously, small business needs all the help it can get. There is a great company called Elena Cohn.
Okay.
Kohn, that I would recommend to you for both pull-on pants that could work here. A slimmer pant that would have a button but still kind of cropped and will work with those shoes. The
Okay.
other recommendation that I have about shoes is the reason I ask about sneakers is because I don't know where you reside currently, but there's a running store in New York called Jackrabbit, and I'm sure that there are similar stores all over the country. But what they do is they ask you to walk or to run on a treadmill, and
Oh,
they
sure.
see whether you pronate or whatever. And then there are two great things that I've seen them do. They cut insoles to the sneaker of your choice to give you the kind of arch support that you might need. But they also make, and I'm sure you could find this online, I'm sure Amazon sells them, recovery sandals. And I don't know whether you own those already,
Oh,
but those are for wearing at home to help strengthen your arch and actually strengthen your ankles, so that if you are wearing shoes for long work shifts, you come home and that should help actually kind of rehab them quite quickly and maybe make another shoe a little bit more comfortable, even if you're wearing them outside of work. Hey, Scott.
How are you? Name's Scott Williams. I actually just transitioned out of the Army back in May as a first lieutenant from Fort Stewart, Georgia, where I spent 4.5 years as an armor officer, holding various roles as platoon leader. So in charge of like 4 tanks, 16 soldiers, to be an executive
Wow.
officer in charge of logistics, maintenance for a whole fleet of tanks and 80 soldiers. Since exiting, I actually just started a job last month with Wayfair as an operations manager at their facility here in Dallas, Texas. It's basically for the operations of an entire shift where I'm bouncing back and forth between a warehouse environment and an office setting, managing a bunch of different departments to keep things running smoothly and ensuring that customers get their orders fulfilled on time.
I'm a customer, by the way.
Yes. And so it's different going from obviously the military, where your wardrobe was pretty much selected for you on a daily basis, not much to change it up. And now I'm in this environment where I still want to dress somewhat professionally, but in an unair conditioned warehouse, there's obviously some limitations to that. So I'm trying to strike a balance. Currently, I just kind of wear a polo and jeans. But I just wasn't sure if there's another way to kind of change it up, add some flair or variety, so it's not just the same thing day in, day out like the Army was.
Sure. Well, there's a couple of things that I would say to you. Obviously, it sounds like there are two different parts to your job, like being in the warehouse and then being in the office, and that can be hard to straddle. And also, men, you don't have as many choices as women do. You just don't. So first off, polo shirts are your best friend. I will definitely say I think that is a wise choice on your part. The one other thing that I would recommend is a flat front khaki pant. I know it sounds maybe like a little bit kind of preppy but if you get the more modern kinds, like companies like Rag and Bone make slimmer fit khakis for men that I think can really do double duty between being in a work environment and also, if you have to be out in a warehouse. And the other thing is that if you leave a sport jacket maybe in your office, you can wear those with a polo shirt, or you can wear them with like a light cotton button down. You don't need a tie, but if you have to run into a meeting and you want to look a little bit more put together, layers always work. Right? It's the holy trinity. That's what I say. You always want like a layering piece and then something else that's extra. So maybe, try patterns. I mean, this color on you looks fantastic. So bright colors clearly work with your skin color and your hair color, but they don't just have to be in that color palette. You could do blues, you could do greens. And also, I would try maybe a black jean as well, or a dark gray. And there are these great sneakers / shoes that Cole Haan makes that look almost like a brogue, but they feel like a sneaker. I don't know. I think there was an ad for something, but they are fantastic. And they also make outfits look like jeans and a polo shirt, just a little bit more formal. The other thing I would say, I know I can't see you because we're just sort of, waist up here, but belts are going to be super important for you, because you want to just make sure that if you tuck in a shirt or you're, wearing a trouser, it just looks a little bit more polished. So make sure that you have a black belt and a brown belt. and then maybe, you know, because I know Dallas is quite warm, look for a canvas belt or something like with a stripe or a little bit of interest. And I think that that will go a long way into making you look polished and yet interesting, you know? And when it comes to sort of thinner cotton button downs, definitely go for things that breathe. Cotton, natural fabrics are going to be your best bet. But you would look great in a stripe or a check. And I think that would be also a really nice option. Keep the bottom simple. Jeans, khakis, you don't need to, you know, you don't need to be wearing a trouser, like a suit trouser. If you know, want to own one suit, I'd say that's in your interest because, you know, as you move up in the world and get promoted and things like that, you may need something for more formal events. So one really good 3-season suit is probably going to get you through all of that. And I always recommend navy blue.
Margaret is joining us from Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
My oldest friend, hi, my oldest friend was at Fort Bragg. My friend since I was 3 years old was stationed at Fort Bragg for a while.
That's fantastic. Excuse me. I'm just here visiting. I'm training some soldiers out here. So I'm actually stationed near Kansas City, Missouri. I'm a military intelligence officer, and this has been my daily wear for 23 years. So I came into the Army at 17. I have never, ever, ever dressed myself for real since I was in high school. And that's exaggerating a little bit. I do know how to dress myself.
But probably not that much. Yeah.
Not really. I can put on a dress for church. And that's literally like what I do. I don't put together outfits because I wear this and pants all the time. I wear
Right.
dresses and skirts, never pants, hardly ever shorts.
Really?
And I'm perfectly okay with that. I have always loved skirts and dresses. Um, Living in Kansas City, where it gets pretty darn cold,
Right.
it's okay. I just wear thick tights.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all right with it. But I think dressing professionally, I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. As a military intelligence officer, the jobs that I'm seeking when I get out will most likely be something along the lines of things that have to do with security. So,
Sure.
protecting buildings, protecting personnel, things along those lines, managing things like that. So it will be professional. The equivalent for a man would be suits and ties, and I don't know what the equivalent for a woman would be other than a
Right.
woman's business suit. And so
Right.
again,
But you could do,
I
sorry, go
know
ahead.
I know dresses. That's it.
Okay, well, that's cool, but that's a good place to start. Do you feel, I mean, look, here's the thing with having to wear a uniform for any length of time, it limits your decision trees, you know, significantly so that you can think like, I don't know if you guys remember, there was this great article years ago in Vanity Fair about how Obama only wears blue or gray suits because he doesn't have time to choose his clothes. Like that is effort that his brain did not need to make, right? And I believe that it's really true when you have been wearing a uniform for years and years. You know, it's a very difficult transition to go from exactly what you just said. You've been wearing this one thing. You know you like dresses and skirts. You've worn them to church, but that's really all you've ever had to think about. The worst thing to do, I think, when you're transitioning back into civilian workwear is to think, oh my God, there's just too many choices, right? It's like your mind gets blown. And I think it's very important to start simply. And then, you know, as you get more used to things over time, you start to add to your wardrobe. So I think there are some basics that you're going to need. I do think that you're going to need a suit. It could be a skirt suit. And there be, you know, and truly, and that doesn't mean that you even have to wear the suit together. It may be great for an interview, like a nice fitted jacket with a straight pencil skirt could be gorgeous and doesn't even need an underpinning. Or you could do a pantsuit. But I think that, again, the suit is the cornerstone when you walk back into the civilian workplace. Like, unless you're, you know, doing what Scott's doing and you know that you're going to be in a warehouse or whatever, and you have to take that into account. I think that particularly for interviewing and particularly for the area that you're in, there is something very comforting about seeing somebody come dressed to an interview in a suit, right? Because the sector that you're going to be working in, I think that the way that you present yourself needs to be, for lack of a better word, trustworthy, right? And so the idea of, and clothes can truly convey that. And I think that, you want to, oh, sorry, hold on, that was a phone call I declined, I apologize. But I think that, again, wearing something that sort of straddles the idea that you have been wearing camouflage and fatigues and that you wear dresses is the best place to start. Would be a skirt suit, and then separates that you could wear. So like a work trouser doesn't have to be a suit, with just a very plain and simple blouse. I mean, I love your hair color, and the idea that you have short hair is so nice. So I would do something, I don't know if you can see the shirt. I'm not saying this print, but the idea, oh, thank you. Well, these kinds of shirts also, ladies, Scott, I don't think this really applies to you so much, but I'm going to be honest. But the idea of virtual interviewing, something with color and pattern is always going to catch a little bit more attention, right? So Elizabeth, like, I love the neckline of your top, but I'm losing your hair. You don't have any jewelry to distinguish the black from what, from you. Like, it looks very blank palette to me. And even if you were wearing a red lipstick, like something to kind of make you pop. So I do like the idea for you, Margaret, of this, get yourself a skirt suit if you are doing real live interviews. If you are only doing virtual interviews, then I would look for blouses, cotton, silk, something either in a really great color. Ladies, you can never go wrong with jewel tones if you're looking for something other than a neutral. And I, that's emerald, sapphire, ruby, all of, amethyst. Those colors are flattering on every skin tone and at least command a little bit of attention. Or look for something printed. You can do something that's like a little bit more feminine, like a flower, but geometrics tend to be a little less, sort of gender oriented. And if you're, stripes, checks, houndstooth, anything like that, I think is very appropriate for the workplace. And not that florals aren't. I just think that when you're trying, again, security is quite a serious sector of the environment. You don't want to come off, I think, as too not frilly, that's not the word, frivolous is sort of what I'm, looking for. Not too many candy colors, not too many primary colors. I think it's very important to have just sort of not a note of being serious, because obviously you all have personalities, right? But you want something that says you take the job that you're interviewing for seriously, just the same way that you do when you're in the armed forces. This idea of commanding respect by giving respect, I think, is very important in the way that you present yourself for an interview. When you do accessories, whether it's jewelry or glasses or a headband or anything like that, be careful that you don't go overboard. A lot of people that I've been talking with lately for who are applying for jobs think that to stand out, they really have to stand out. But remember, when you're on a virtual call and we can only see this much of you, anything too big is going to be distracting. So, wearing things that are like a smaller earring or a smaller pendant necklace are lovely and will definitely help accent an outfit, but going too bright or too heavy will be very distracting on a virtual call.
Stacy, I'm glad you mentioned virtual calls because it seems that is the new working environment. What
at least for a little while.
Yeah. What are some other tips or tricks that you can share for people who are getting ready to do, a job interview in a virtual way?
Well, just what I was saying. I mean, the same way that you would use the criteria, first of all, do I like myself in this outfit, right? You want to walk into any job situation feeling confident. And the best way to do that is to figure out what colors you like to wear, what prints you like to wear. And again, nothing too overpowering, because then it becomes a distraction from what you're saying. So it is very important that you kind of, you know, spend a little bit of time in your wardrobe and figure out what is going to work for you. The other thing is that I said I really love layering. So even if you're wearing a t-shirt like Elizabeth, I keep using you as an example, but the idea of, like, if you wore a checked, you know, cardigan over that wasn't too big a check, that to me would be like a beautiful little outfit to see you in. You know, something maybe cropped, like a short cardigan, something like that where you're layering. You can even do small silk scarves, nothing too big that you would wear outside, but you know, the same way that gentlemen wear ties, you can absolutely wear a cute little silk scarf tied around your neck instead of like a big heavy necklace. Yeah, again, keep your accessories small. I know this sounds funny, but if you're like me and you talk with your hands all the time, you know, maybe make sure you either have a manicure or your cuticles are cut or silly things like that. I never used to think about that until I started doing more Zoom calls, because then all of a sudden you realize, like, oh no, my hands are super dry, you know, things like that. Anything that you would do that would make you feel more comfortable, I think is really important. And brighter colors, I think, work best for interviews, but not so bright that they're distracting. Again, it's not just the jewel tones, but it's like tertiary colors. It's like what Scott's wearing. I would consider that like almost like a salmon pink instead of a bubblegum pink, right? And maybe it's red, and I can't tell based on this, but it's that kind of idea. You want something that's like a little bit more interesting. And the weird thing about primary colors isn't that they don't work. It's just, one, they can be very distracting, and two, we think of primary colors and there's sort of a subconscious association with childhood, right? Like romper room. So if you're gonna wear bright red or bright yellow or bright blue, it sometimes sends the wrong message. Obviously, all of those colors, for every rule, there is an equal and opposite rule. But you know, sometimes those colors are very flattering. But I think in the new environment that we're in, the idea to really concentrate on something that has visual interest but isn't distracting is the fine line we kind of have to walk.
Air Force First Lieutenant Jillian Combs has a question for you. She would like to know, where are your favorite places to find affordable professional clothes?
Oh gosh, there's so many places. I mean, that's a tough question. You know, as I said before, I really do believe, you know, right now it's great to shop to our advantage. But what I try to do is look for sort of unique websites. Like one that I really love is called Shopbop. They even have pieces that they advertise and sell on Amazon. And but that's something, you know, that's one outlet. I mean, another place that I like to look for affordable clothing is vintage and even thrift shops. I mean, you know, then there are things like the Real, or you can rent outfits from Rent the Runway, which is a really affordable idea. If you're not sure what your style is just yet, you want to experiment a little bit, you can either sign up for a membership, or Gwynnie B does the same thing, and they do extended sizing. So you can rent an outfit for a week and then return it, which, you know, everything is properly dry cleaned during COVID. They're very careful, but it's a really affordable way to figure out what you like to wear before you start purchasing things. And then, not for nothing, I really believe that Instagram is sort of the new way to shop. Not just look for sponsored ads, but let's say you put in the hashtag like pretty dresses. It's a great search engine and a terrific way to find not only interesting designers, but new designers that you can help support. And right now, I think, again, supporting small business is such a good idea. So those are all things, and also it's a question of sustainability. If you know, care about sort of wanting to do things that aren't fast fashion, and believe me, I'm not damning fast fashion. I'm just saying that's a little bit more complicated when you think about sustainability or transparency in supply chains. You can always get something from Zara. You can always get something from H&M. You can always get something from Mango. If you're looking for things that are going to be a little bit sturdier and a little bit more of a long-term commitment to your wardrobe, then I suggest spending a little bit more and really finding something that you love, not that you're going to want to get rid of in 6 months.
Are there differences between how someone should dress for a job interview versus dressing professionally every day in the office?
I tend to think that you might want to just slick it up a little bit for your interview, meaning that maybe more of a blank canvas and a little less personality. You want your clothes to say that you're trustworthy, that you're responsible, but also that gives people the opportunity to really hear and see you as a person. All your clothes are ever meant to do is amplify who you actually are, right? I think that once you get the job, then you can really understand what the work dress code is going to be like. Now, it's not possible for companies to enforce a work dress code. It's not legal, but they can make suggestions. And so obviously there are guidelines to follow. And usually they'll be quite upfront about that in an interview. And it's absolutely an appropriate question to ask. Because not always will you, if you wear a suit to an interview, will you ever have to wear that suit again? But the great thing about a suit is then you can break it up. So, Margaret, as I was saying to you, if you did a skirt suit, you might wind up wearing that jacket over a dress. It doesn't mean that you're always going to have to wear it as a suit. Those are two viable pieces that once you have them, you already have an outfit, but two, then you can split it up. Wear the skirt with a blouse. I wear it with boots. I mean, you can do all sorts of things that make it a really useful thing to have in your wardrobe. So I think it's a fine line. I think that there's always, what you must keep in mind is, what is that company looking for from me? And what is the outfit that best represents me? And sometimes there's a wider gap between the interview and the actual job, and sometimes there isn't. I mean, that really is a case-by-case thing, and it's your responsibility, I think, to at least kind of do your research in that regard and really think about what the job is going to look like once you're in it. Like Scott was saying, he's got two very different parts to his job, and his clothing needs to walk the line between them. That's sort of what you need to do when you're thinking about what jobs you're applying for.
You have your perfect outfit for your professional office. How about shoes for men and women? What do you recommend?
Well, again, that's super job specific. I mean, I am not going to recommend Dansko. Sorry, Elizabeth. For all you nurses, doctors, I understand, and you have my sympathies. But I do think that there are so many, different versions. There are a lot of companies now where business casual is still business, but where sneakers are allowed. I mean, Scott could easily wear a really fly sneaker with a sport jacket and jeans and look incredible. It is a question of whether or not, one, it's comfortable enough for you, and two, what's appropriate in the workplace. There are a lot of offices that still don't smile that kindly on open-toed shoes for women, but you have to read the room, right? I mean, that's really what it boils down to, is that it's not a question of well, I want to do me. It's a question of what is going to get me the job that I want. And I think that that's really, something to think about when you leave the service and you're going into civilian life. Again, minimize your decision trees. Don't overthink things, because I think that, it's going to feel too overwhelming. If you have one great pair, as a female, if you have one great pair of flats, one great pair of sneakers, and maybe a small closed toe heel, that's a great place to start. I mean, I love boots too. So if you want to throw a boot in there, good for you. And with guys, sneakers, as I said to you, Scott Colhan makes this great kind of sneaker shoe hybrid, and a pair of dress shoes, like a lace up pair of dress shoes, you're good to go. You want to start small and then be creative from there. And if you're feeling uncomfortable about colors or patterns, if you're worried that you're not hitting the right note, stick with really beautiful colors. Stick with interesting collars. Stick with one thing that kind of makes an outfit sort of stand out from the pack. And I think you're good to go. I really do. And as you transition back into civilian life, you'll start to get a feel for what you like better. Another reason that renting clothing can be so helpful, because it's sort of the try without the buy. There's no commitment, and it doesn't, the cost is actually pretty minimal compared to constantly buying clothing. And it can help you really get a feel for what you want your style to transition into.
How can choosing an outfit change a person's mindset or set a tone for the day?
I like to think that your wardrobe can reflect or protect. Those are the things I like to say. It can, when you're in a good mood and you put on something colorful or figure flattering, or you look good, it just reflects to the outside world, right? It's like you got a kick in your step, you're probably funnier, you might be flirtier, all of the things that clothes are meant to do. But when you're not feeling great, right, I would say you still want to choose that outfit, because even if you don't feel your best, the rest of the world won't know that. And it acts as armor, really, like as a shield to protect your, sort of whatever you're feeling on the inside from the outside world. So either it reflects a good mood or protects you from feeling like you look like you're in a bad mood, right? That's one of the things that I say to people a lot. What you think that you're putting out into the world, you want to make sure is aligned what people are actually seeing. So when I see somebody who is wearing super baggy clothing or all black, right? One of the things that I think is that they think, well, black is slimming, or if I'm wearing bigger clothes, I look thinner. And I'm like, nope, that's not it. What I see is somebody who's trying to hide and doesn't like their body, right? So these are the kinds of messages that we're actually transmitting without thinking about it. So it's important that you pay attention to your body type. And I will say that's just a question of geometry. And if that has nothing to do with style per se. It's very easy once you understand your body type and where you carry your weight in your body to figure out what clothes work for you. And this wasn't meant to be a plug at all, but the book that Clinton and I wrote together is called Dress Your Best. And that is just a primer. All it is match your body type to the people that we chose for the book. And all of the tips for how to dress that body type are there. And I mean, I wish I had more time. Otherwise, I would just read you the book. We'd be here for a while.
Talking about dressing for your body type. So I have a I'm fine with it, but I have a very long torso and short legs, and I'm short. I'm only 5'2", and I'm very muscular.
Eyes of blue?
Yeah. I do.
And you're very muscular. That's great. Yeah. Oh my God, you and Lady Gaga.
So my rear is large because it's muscle, and I have large legs, and so any pants that I have have a huge gap in the waist, and always have to be tailored. Fine, but it's so difficult to find and that's probably another reason why I wear skirts a lot, because I can slouch them down low on my hips and they still fit.
Sure.
But where can I find you where I live?
I have trained over 5,000 stylists in my life. So what you want to do is look for either an in-store, like if you went to a Nordstrom or a Bloomingdale's or something like that, you can go to their personal styling service. Now, the one thing that you should do your homework about is whether or not a personal stylist attached to a store actually gets a commission. Because then you can't really trust what they're saying. They're going to tell you everything looks great. You need to look for stylists who either don't work on commission in stores, who are just there as part of the service, or actually invest in a stylist. And the easiest way to do that is look for image consultants or personal stylists in your area.
I understand that service members often wear kind of plastic or more durable watches because of the nature of their jobs, and they like the digital typeface because it's real easy to look down and see the time. If you're a pilot, you can't sit there and calculate an analog clock. So I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
Do you have thoughts on types of watches people should wear in the civilian professional office?
Well, not really. I mean, there are certain places where I think that if you're in a very kind of strict office environment, things like that maybe matter a little bit more. You wouldn't want to wear like a sport watch, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be digital. I think that, we place a lot of emphasis on watches as status symbols, and that to me is sort of not that's of no interest to me personally. I think you want to wear a watch, one that, sorry, I feel flashes going on. I'm like, is it what's going on with my sight line here? But I think that it's just that, there are watches that are sporty that, let's say like Scott's wearing a polo shirt, you could get away with a rubber watch. You know what I mean? Like, great. It's just, or you could really dress it up by wearing a metal watch. But in either case, I really believe that that's a matter of taste and not not style.
Obviously, no one's doing happy hours anymore for the time being, but I would
Such a
like,
bummer.
we're eventually going to get back to some sense of normal.
Yeah.
Obviously it's going to depend on the company you work for, but in general, is there a good go-to like cocktail hour, happy hour outfit, to it's just kind of like good for all occasions? They kind of, middle of the road, does it, not too flashy, not too formal, but not too.
Right. I think that well, this is where I like layering a whole lot, and I like layering in terms of just like almost crew neck lines. And I would wear crew neck t-shirts with a crew neck sweater just so you see a little bit of the t-shirt with jeans. I do like a kind of nice boxy sweater or something. It doesn't even have to be heavy, or it could be completely lightweight. But the idea of layering, or even a t-shirt with a sport jacket, I think is really cool with jeans. These are all sort of variations on the theme that we already talked about, Scott. But honestly, when happy hour comes back, it's still going to be happy hour. It's not going to be like a formal cocktail party. So I think, that the transition from work to happy hour, certainly in your case, isn't going to be a dramatic difference. But I would definitely stock up on lots of good colors. I feel good color for you.
Any parting words of wisdom or anything else that you think might be helpful for service members to know?
Well, again, I think that this is a process, and that definitely, if you have been wearing the same thing over and over again for many years and haven't had to exercise this part of your brain, all I say is be gentle with yourself. And really, truly, most important when it comes to any outfit is fit. And Margaret, as you were saying, like, you find that your pants always need taking in the waist, you're already tailoring. Tailoring is essential. Not everybody is going to fit every piece of clothing correctly, even when you have the closest fit imaginable, even when you find, the silhouettes that work best on you. So I highly recommend finding a good tailor. And remember, it's not expensive to hem pants or hem a sleeve. It gets expensive when you're trying to reset the shoulder on a jacket. So fit is very important, and cost is very important. You need things that have multi-use value. And when you start buying things, have the basics. Make sure you have some solid colors, both in tops and bottoms. Make sure you have some good jeans. And, the criteria for jeans is that your ass has to look great. That's the big deal. Okay. So just make sure. And then, as you add to your wardrobe, you're going to start to do that very slowly. So what you'll see, I think, as you shop is that, you'll get some solids, you'll get some prints, pants, skirts, dresses, jackets, whatever it is, but do it very slowly. And really, that way, I think you get to understand what it is that you like and you don't like, and what gets you the response that you're looking for, right? Because your clothing is like your calling card. So your style will sort of be informed by the environment in which you find yourself. Take your time with that. Be gentle with yourself, because it's going to take a second until your personal style really starts to shine through. These are new choices, and I just recommend giving yourself the time that you need in order to do that, instead of what a lot of people do is just buy everything and anything that they see that will work. So stick to the basics at first. Remember, any new purchase should go with 2 things that you already own. And if they don't, and you still want to buy that item, then I suggest buying it with a matching, not matching, but with a piece that you can wear as a full outfit. When you're coming out of the service, instead of just buying single pieces, I recommend buying outfits so you know that you already have something to wear. Unless you know that, let's say the shirt you want to buy goes with 2 pairs of pants you already own, great. If it doesn't, then buy pants that go with it, buy skirts that go with it, so that you're never at a loss for what to do with what's in your closet. Because the worst thing to do is to buy something and never wear it, right? Why spend the money on that?
What are the rules for like repeating outfits for those of us that don't have a big closet? You know, how is it every 2 weeks, like what are the rules?
Listen, there are no rules. There are no rules when it comes to that, seriously. And that's the last thing you need to be worrying about, because if somebody else is like, wow, she wore that outfit 3 days this week, they clearly aren't doing their job. They're just too busy looking at you. So, the one thing is, if you're getting these basic pieces and you're sticking, let's say, with neutrals, black, navy, white, cream, gray, those are all great building blocks, right? And all you need to do to switch that stuff up is add a different accessory, wear a different jacket. You don't have to go too far out of your way, and you can repeat clothes over and over. And, really, like Scott, they're like in your situation, there really aren't that many options for you. And I think that, Elizabeth, you and Margaret both want to start almost in the same way. Keep it simple. Find a couple of pieces, like Margaret was saying, she really likes this top. Great. Find a floral cotton top or a silk blouse, something that really appeals to you, that that you can wear with bottoms you already have, that are neutral, that are easy. And, remember, necklaces, things like that can always, when you're not on a virtual call, when you're actually working, I feel like that's when you can be more expressive with your jewelry. When you're face to face, I think you wear a black sweater and add like a cool vintage pearl necklace, boom, you've got a look.
Thank you so much for making time for us. We really appreciate it, Stacy.
It's my pleasure. Again, thank you guys for your service. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll talk to you soon.